Look, what are we now? April, we're 4 months in.
4 months in.
So we started with Canelo Crawford, a Superfight in September on Netflix with our partners in Saudi, Turkey Al Sheikh. We set, I think, the third highest gate record for that fight, for any fight ever. Allegiant Stadium, which was a big event, massive viewership on Netflix. It seemed to hit. And then we started Zuffa in January. We're the startup. We're the underdog. We're not UFC. We're not WWE. We sort of have to prove our way. And, the establishment in any business doesn't like when there's an upstart or newcomers. No problem by us.
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of SBJ's On Stage. I'm your host, Taylor Bloom. Today's episode comes from the CAA World Congress of Sports in Los Angeles, where Nick Khan, president of WWE and board member of TKO, sat down with Abe Madkour, Sports Business Journal's publisher and executive editor. Recorded on April 15th, 2026, this conversation explores WWE's continued evolution as a global sports entertainment powerhouse, from media rights and international expansion to talent strategy and the changing economics of live content. Khan also reflects on his leadership journey and what it takes to operate at the center of sports, media, and entertainment during a period of massive industry change. Let's go on stage.
How are you feeling about this weekend?
We're feeling good.
Yeah.
Ticket sales are strong.
Are they strong? Because the buzz on the market is a little softer than last year.
Listen, last year we set, records, which we set the year prior to that. So this year we think is going to get close to that record, but fingers crossed.
So you went back to Vegas back to back. Why?
I think when I went out there for their first Super Bowl a couple of years ago, I was shocked but not shocked at how easy it was for Vegas to handle that big of a crowd. It's a city built for tourism. So we were impressed with that. We sat down with a gentleman named Steve Hill from the Las Vegas Visitors and Convention Authority, struck a deal with him. The event was quite successful last year, boom, so we struck another one for this year.
All right, let's talk about you. You grew up in Vegas, born, I think, in 1974, grew up watching boxing, right? I mean, that was the hometown sport.
Yeah, so it was, as everyone knows, in a pre-cable world, pre-Fox, 3 networks and some crazy like UHF channels. So on Saturdays, every Saturday, on CBS and ABC at least, and at some point NBC, you had boxing at 1 p.m. Pacific. So that was our local sport, that and UNLV basketball. That's what you'd read about in the papers. That's what you'd watch on the local news.
Running Rebels days?
Running Rebels.
Tark the Shark was the code.
Tark the Shark. This is even pre-Larry Johnson and that amazing team, if anyone remembers it. Reggie Theus, the teams prior to that.
Right.
So those were the 2 sports you sort of grew up on. And wrestling also, which was at least monthly at an old hotel called the Showboat Hotel. But that's when it was like $4 a ticket for boxing or wrestling, so we went to a lot of those.
And so then did you know you want to be in sports? Because you went to law school, you became a lawyer, right?
Yes.
So what was the vision of Nick Khan in terms of what you wanted to do?
I just didn't want to be broke anymore. It was sort of that. And
it's good incentive.
People in the room, and I see some in the front room who I'm sure have thought the same thing. I was waiting tables, going to UNLV. I would do part-time work in addition to my full-time waiting tables job, and was an usher at WrestleMania 9 at Caesar's Palace.
Okay.
Which, our head of production, Lee Fitting, sort of snuck into a documentary that we did, some footage of me in my Usher shirt. And just so we're all clear, like, terrible Usher. These are the folks where, someone would come up to you with a hard copy of the ticket then, and it would say, like, Section C, row L, and I'd be like, it's right this way. Here's your seat. They'd be like, this isn't Section C. I'd be like, sorry. Just walk away. But I got to go to the big events and get paid, and I saw, WrestleMania 9.
Not world's greatest usher, though, obviously.
Not world's greatest usher. Yeah.
Did you always want to represent talent?
When I was a lawyer, it was sort of like, okay, I was primarily a defense lawyer, and I always thought the ramifications for that profession were tough. You could get indicted, you get close to certain clients and this and that. You could get disbarred. If you had the wrong client and it was the wrong result, there could be worse things than that happened. So when I was 25, it was fine. But as I got into my early 30s, I was like, maybe there's an easier way than this. So started representing some sports broadcasting talent. Finally got to pitch Howie and Vino on, hey, please hire me, which they graciously did in 2012, and went on what I think was a great collective run with them, Jimmy Sexton, Alan Gold, and a number of other good folks at CA until about 6 years ago.
Matt
Kramer, Tom Young.
And you go to WWE, and it's a different business when you joined then than it is now.
Yes.
It was a family-run business. Vince, Steph, Triple H, now it's TKO Group, public. What's the difference?
So we had the good fortune of representing WWE in their media rights.
Right.
So you got a sense of the business. So coming in, it wasn't a new thing to me. I sort of knew the personalities. And to me, rule number one when you join a family business is stay out of the family's business. Like, that is not for me to navigate or.
How do you do that, though, in a family business?
You do a lot of listening and not a lot of talking.
Got it.
So, and if anyone watched the show Succession when it was a hot show, if you ever looked at the Roy family and the people that worked there and said, what are those idiots doing working there? Not the Roy family, the other people, like that was me. It's a non-family person.
But you didn't really interject your opinion. You just listened and carried out business.
I interjected my opinion all the time on the business side of things. I would never interject my opinion on, well, this person said this and that said that, and
Got it.
No interest. And by the way, in interjecting my opinion, it's sort of like anyone else who's ever dealt with self-made billionaires. In my opinion, you can say whatever you want as long as it's in private and said respectfully. And you could usually get the person, at that point, Vince, to sway your way, which I found him completely reasonable in all the time I worked for and with him.
Did you miss or do you miss the agency business?
I loved it while I was an agent. I just thought, there was a different opportunity. It was during COVID. I called Howie and Vino. My family and I escaped. LA was way shut down. Way shut down. We live in Los Angeles. Now, I didn't move to Nashville like Howie and say, I'm getting out. But we went to Hawaii. And the thought behind that was, hey, this thing seems like it's going to last for a long time. There's not going to be any business travel because of the time change. You could do anything that a working parent wanted to do. You'd start the day really early, but by 3 o'clock local, you're in the pool with your kids. My wife and I have 2 children. You're barbecuing. You're doing everything you want to do. So I was there. Vince McMahon called, extended the offer. I liked it. I called Howie and Vino and asked their point of view and their permission and their blessing, which they blessed graciously for me, and I took the job starting a week or 2 later.
And then now a TKO Group, which I find to be really an unbelievable success in what you've put together with Mark and Dana between UFC, what you're doing at the WWE, Zuffa Boxing, PBR, and other things. Where's the growth for the TKO Group?
So look, the hyper-focus right now is on our existing businesses. So even if you look at, and these are all publicly released numbers, the revenue and profitability of the company, the cost synergies, the revenue synergies between WWE and UFC in particular, and now Zuffa Boxing are phenomenal. So if you want to do a sponsorship deal with one, maybe you have to do a sponsorship deal with all. And we found that leverage in the marketplace has worked quite well as it applies to venues, television deals or content deals and everything else.
So no M&A pending for TKO Group in terms of other properties to come into the fold?
We're going to stick with what we have for now and try to grow it out in the right way.
Are you happy with boxing so far?
Look, what are we now? April, we're 4 months in.
4 months in.
So we started with Canelo Crawford, a Superfight in September on Netflix with our partners in Saudi, Turkey Al Sheikh. We set, I think, the 3rd highest gate record for that fight, for any fight ever. Allegiant Stadium, which was a big event, massive viewership on Netflix. It seemed to hit. And then we started Zuffa in January. We're the startup. We're the underdog. We're not UFC. We're not WWE. We sort of have to prove our way. And, the establishment in any business doesn't like when there's an upstart or newcomers, no problem by us.
Do you think boxers can be crossover celebs?
I think if you look back, for anyone over the age of 50 in the room, I look back in 1984, and I say to myself, in the United States, who are the most popular athletes? So, okay, Bird and Magic were already in the league. Joe Montana. Jordan wasn't in the league yet. And then you go to the individual sports stars. You went to John McEnroe, Chris Everett, Jack Nicklaus, Sugar Ray Leonard, Boom Boom Mancini, Evel Knievel, if you wanted to consider him an athlete. All individual sports stars. And then the leagues became the leagues. The NFL went on this juggernaut surge that it's still on, to its credit. The NBA, Jordan comes in, David Stern, they sort of changed the whole leagues. The individual sports stayed the same. So outside of UFC and WWE, if you said in 1984, and by the way, add Mary Lou Retton, Carl Lewis to sort of most famous
Olympics,
athlete.
yeah.
So the question when we were kids was, who's the fastest man on the planet? You always knew the answer to that. I don't know the answer to that right now. And who's the heavyweight champion of the world? You always knew the answer to that. There's some in the room who would know here, but it's not as known as it once was. The issue is when boxing's great, it's amazing. It's just not great often enough.
And it's dirty.
It's ridiculous. The characters in the sport, a lot of them are absurd. There's some good folks too.
Okay.
A lot of them are absurd. But again, we're the startup. We'll see what we can
And
do.
you're working with Dana on this.
Correct.
How's that dynamic?
Easy.
Really?
Dana White is a builder, has a great eye for promotion, understands what the consumer wants. You know, I'm more on the business side of things and making sure that things are situated there. So similar to Triple H and myself on the WWE side, I'm not sort of crafting the matches for this weekend's WrestleMania show. He and I will talk them through. He'll, ask me for my point of view, and I'll certainly offer it. But he runs that side.
And the growth for WWE is where I know taking some certain bouts international, and but you always, when you spoke at World Congress a few years ago, you wanted to keep most of them North America.
Yeah, and by the way, that was then, this is now. So, our thinking always evolves, or at least we always try to evolve it. So we did Royal Rumble, which is one of our biggest events in Saudi this past February 1. We're doing WrestleMania next year in Saudi. First time ever WrestleMania will be outside of the United States or Canada. And we've had a big, fruitful partnership with them. So for international properties, we realized years ago we can't simply pipe out American content internationally. You've got to be boots on the ground. And if you look at our revenue from international now, it's substantially greater than it was 5.5 years ago.
What will it mean to have that in Saudi?
Look, I think it means a lot. Even if you look at the European tours that we've been out, we went on one early this year. We're going again this summer. We're constantly breaking venue records when we go. It doesn't have to be only here. And what we found is that our fans will tune in. We're internationally on Netflix, United States on ESPN Unlimited, their new D2C program. People are tuning in sort of no matter where we go. So we hope it's...
So there's no anger or pushback by taking one of your biggest events to Saudi?
Well, look, I've never read X or Twitter as it relates to our business. And I've certainly never read it regarding me. That is a vocal minority. It's sort of like, again, for the above 50 crowd in the room, if you remember like comment and complaint cards at restaurants, people only filled out the complaint.
If their Usher sucked.
Correct.
Right.
So there are a lot of them.
Yeah.
Right. And by the way, we get, I'm BCC'd on every email that comes into our fan service, email address, as is Chris Legentil, who's our head of comms and head of talent. And, some of the complaints are, I didn't like the match. You guys are pieces of shit or whatever. I'll tell you, okay, I got it. Some are, hey, we had an obstructed view. Okay, we'll have you come to our next show. People are allowed to complain, but we don't adjust our business based on complaint. We adjust our business based on ratings, revenue, relevancy, which...
The 3 R's.
The 3 R's, which was created by Jamie Horowitz, by the way, who's somewhere around here.
Question here from the audience. WWE more profitable than ever. What steps are being taken to preserve the experience as prices go up and being a fan is more expensive than ever?
So here's the challenge, and I'll tell you a mistake we made with Canelo Crawford. We wanted to make sure the Upper Bowl stadium show in the United States, they had done a couple at AT&T Stadium, but they hadn't done many over the last number of decades. So we wanted to make sure the Upper Bowl was priced family friendly. As soon as we put them on sale, the Upper Bowl was sold out in 3 minutes. It wasn't sold out to families. It was sold out to third-party ticket brokers. So we priced it, I think, the cheapest seats at $35. A day later on the third-party broker websites, there were $75 selling. So the marketplace dictates the ticket price.
So that's hence.
That's it.
So you look at the secondary as the marketplace and adjust accordingly for the primary.
Correct.
Okay. If you could build a sport from scratch today, what would you do differently to make it a premium media property?
Any sport, you're saying?
Yep. If you could build a sport from scratch today.
I think when you see the success of darts in the UK, for example, anyone who's been to a bar in the United States, like a regular bar, you see it. People are playing it, men and women of all ages. but it's never been done right on TV, just like I don't think surfing's been done right on TV. Surfing you could do with drone cameras now. You couldn't do it with cameras on the beach. You want to be able to see the individuals. Go figure, in individual sports, the individuals matter, right? So when Tiger, has his unfortunate incident and is not going to be at the Masters, it's disappointing to people because Tiger Woods, people want him in the Masters. So if you can build up the individual stars, if you do darts with the right kind of promoter, that's interesting to me. It's not going to be a massive business.
Right, but it's
an interesting business to me.
From your experience with talent, what do you wish you would have known earlier on? From your experience with talent, what do you wish you had learned earlier on?
I think I had the good fortune of learning it pretty early. Number one, business comes first. If a relationship develops, great, a relationship develops, but you always have to deliver the goods. And if you can do that as an agent, consistently deliver the goods to your client, you're not going to lose a lot of clients.
Couple quotes that you say about where you work in your culture. Quote, "You'll never hear us complain that we're tired. We can outwork you."
What I hear from people, it's weird elevator talk now. A lot of times you'll see someone, "Hey, how you doing?" They're like, "Busy. I'm like, well, you're supposed to be busy. Like, how about I'm doing great? How are you doing? It's busy. It's very strange to me. And then you'll hear people say like, tired, man. What does that mean? You're working hard? Like, who's not tired who works hard? And by the way, if you want to make a lot of money, show me the job where you can make a lot of money and not work hard. I'm happy to go take it. I haven't seen that job anywhere. So you're going to work. The iPhone and before that, the BlackBerry ruined it for everybody in this room. Again, I keep going to the plus 50 crowd. You remember 20 years ago, if someone called you at home Tuesday night at 9 p.m., it was, let's say, DEFCON 2. Now it's just Tuesday night at 9 p.m. And if you don't answer the phone, someone else is going to be there to answer the phone. So I'll make one guarantee about everyone in this room, just one guarantee. Last thing you do, you look at your phone at night. First thing you do, and you may try to delay it, I'm going to wash my face and freshen up, and then I'm going to look at my phone. So everyone's day is like 6 a.m. to 11 p.m. That's just the way it is. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be more tiring than it was. I'm just not a fan of hearing that complaint.
And you're not a fan of the reply on the email, "I'm out of the office."
Please don't ever do that if you're working with me. And when I see people do that, and by the way, the super successful people that I've been around, including the people in this room, you never see the the signature block on their emails that has their title.
No,
like on Howie's email, it doesn't say Howie Newchow, founder, co-founder, and co-head CA Sports. It just says, "Hey, thanks, Howie." Same with Vino. So I always feel like the people who are trying to prove themselves a little much are like, I'm director 2 of this, that, and that's fine if that's what you want to do. But eventually you want your name to speak for itself. And if I email you something and you send me an out of office reply, I only have intermittent access to email. Like, where are you that you only have this intermittent access? And why, if I need something, are you telling me don't bother me? Wouldn't I just go to somebody else who could help me with that? So at WWE, and by the way, I get it, people need their vacation time. They got to catch their breaths. We always make it a point at graduation time to go around to the folks, especially on our crew, and say, I don't want to hear about anyone missing a graduation because you have to do SmackDown or do Raw. Tell us. You make sure you get the day off and do what you got to do. But at the same time, out of office, I don't want to work. Like, then just don't work here. Go find that somewhere else.
Do you feel that you're a empathetic boss?
I do.
Yep.
I do. Now, by the way, I technically wasn't Matt Kramer and Tom Young's boss. I was their colleague, just like I consider Chris Legento a colleague of mine. I think if someone's going through something, I have high empathy. If they're tired, I don't have high empathy. So I guess it would be up to them to define that.
The line of people waiting to work for Nick Khan starts at the door, right? All right, let's talk about a few industry issues. Will Disney be different under this new leader, under
Yes.
Josh? How so?
Look, I think Bob Iger goes down as certainly the top media executive of the modern era. It's not questionable to me. He came back when they needed him to come back. He did a phenomenal job. Josh tomorrow brings in a fresh point of view. Even if you look at, hey, quick, we're going to reorg. Hey, we have some reduction in force, the polite version of layoffs. right? We have to do that. So, hey, we're going to clean this up a little bit. We're going to synergize it a little more. So now you have a new person's vision. And by the way, if you listen to their last earnings call, so much of it before DeMauro was named the CEO was on the cruise lines and the theme parks and the hotels. The business has shifted, and they've shifted with it. And I think they put the right leader in charge. They had a lot of good options there. Jimmy Pitaro's great, Dana Walden's great, Alan's great. But at the end of the day, they went with the guy who drove the most revenue. That's typically how it goes.
Buzz is that ESPN will be spun off. What does that look like in your mind?
Look, I think you just saw it successfully with NBCU and Versant.
Yeah.
And they made great hires at Versant with Matt Hong and other people. Let's see. It makes sense. You know, ESPN still brings in a ton of cash. It doesn't have the distribution it once did simply
But
because
it still
of the
does
environment.
bring a ton of top line and EBITDA.
Money in is money in.
Right.
You know, that's a cash cow business still. So we'll see.
What is the market for on-air talent these days?
I think the market continues to be what it was 5.5 years ago when I left that business, which is the middle class, and it's all relative, right? Because the middle class there makes a lot more than the middle class of the United States, but it's becoming more reflective of the U.S. economy. The middle's getting squeezed. The Greenies, Schefters, McAfee's, those folks will continue to make a ton of money, and they deserve every penny. The people in the middle who are a little more fungible, I'm not sure. Just like 5.5 years ago, I wasn't sure. Joe Buck, you know, again, these sort of like one-of-ones in what they do. That's what matters. And then on the lower end, hey, you need innings eaters to come in and do your show.
So the volume people, they'll still be paid. What about you? I mean, WWE recently, the new media deals, which you're into, I think, what, year 2, or will we be starting?
We're a year and 3 months into that.
Okay. So you're set for a while, but we know about the NFL going back in, PGA Tour, NHL, MLS. What's going to be the media rights landscape? Is there money for everybody?
Listen, when you hear people say, you know, hey, we forget the NFL. When you hear people say, yeah, we'd like to start conversations. These are the leagues. We'd like to start conversations early. It's like everyone knows what you're doing. You're trying to get out of this NFL tidal wave that's coming up, right? I don't know how successful that's going to be. I think you're going to see people wait to see what happens with this opt-out and whether it can go away by doing a new deal now. I think some will do new deals. I think some won't. And then we'll see once that all lands where everybody else ends.
So you think a media company would do a renewal with a property even with the NFL still out there hanging?
Tough.
Okay.
I'm saying the opposite.
You're saying the opposite, right? That's what I thought you were saying. All right, from the audience, WWE changed WrestleMania plans in regards to Cody Rhodes, Roman Reigns, and The Rock after fan backlash was intense. While you don't monitor social media, what level of fan backlash is required for you to change plans for a major show?
By the way, the plan was always how it ended up in Philly 2 years ago. Sometimes it's a predetermined outcome in wrestling. You want to throw the fans off, you want to let things bake, and then boom, it ends up the way that we wanted it to end up. It never changed. That was just online rumors and gossip that we were changing. It never changed. We convinced Dwayne Johnson to come back. He's on our board of directors. It was a tag team match. He's about the same age I am, so 2 years ago, let's say he was 50.
Right.
You know, he was obviously in phenomenal shape. He did everything that we asked of him and then some, but that was always the result we were looking for.
But to the question, does Legento ever say, Nick, we are getting so hammered on this, we've got to make a change?
We will never respond to social media criticism. Again, if ratings are down, if revenue's down, if relevancy's down, it's up to us. A year ago, we got together. Triple H, Legento, myself, a guy named Shawn Michaels, who runs our developmental system, Hall of Fame wrestler. And we said, hey, look, we have John Cena on his retirement tour. Rock came back, and now he's going to be filming Jumanji and Smashing Machine at the time. Our other big stars, CM Punk's 46. We got a number of men who are 40 years or older, and they're performing at the high level. We got to accelerate the next generation of talent. So what do we need to do to accelerate it? Shawn Michaels said we need to take them on the road so they get the crowd response of a live crowd, right? That's part of what makes wrestling unique. If you're getting cheered, great. If you're getting booed, great. If there's no response, terrible. So you need that live crowd to figure that out. So we made the investment in that. And if you look at the acceleration of stars. Even the opening match on Sunday night, a guy named Obafemi,
Right.
former shot putter at the University of Alabama, against Brock Lesnar. It's probably the most talked about match. We're on ESPN1 and ESPN Unlimited Sunday, so it'll be simulcast. We're starting with one of our bigger matches, that match, and that guy's only been Oba on our main roster for 6 months.
You see the time. Let's do a couple quick,
Yes.
couple quick hitters.
Perfect.
What are you better at now than you were 15 years ago?
Empathy.
Empathy. Well, that's obvious. That read through.
My wife and I have a 14-year-old daughter. We have a 10-year-old son. So I think I've done a good job, which I think all working parents tried to do. I think I've done a good job when I come home. It's, hey, how's everybody here? How was your day? How was the dentist? How was school? You know, this and that. The things that I think, again, when people in this room who are working hard, you got to try to make that conscious effort, because you could have just been beaten up all day, or you could be thinking about other things. Nobody at home should hear that nonsense. And the people, again, in this room who I've seen really succeed, I don't see them taking that stuff home. So I think I've gotten better at that now that we've had children.
What's next for Nick Khan?
What's next is what's now.
You love it?
We have WWE, we have Zuffa. We got to get Zuffa to where we need it to be. That's going to be a lot of work for all of us, but we're excited about it. And then, we'll take it from there.
For everyone in this room, any headwinds or concerns you see about continued growth of sports?
Only for the ones in the middle. You know, I don't know what happens to the MAC conference, and that's not to begrudge them. SEC is going to be in great shape. Big Ten is going to be in great shape. Continue to be impressed by Brett Yormark and how he came into the Big 12 and basically decimated the Pac-12 and some other things, and said basically, I want to be the third best conference, and got Colorado in. Dion had the hot hand at that time. So love what they've done. I do think, consolidation in college sports makes sense, but I think it's tougher to get the college sports folks there than.
And real quick, are there too many leagues out there?
Look, when things are offering, when programming is offered up for free and it doesn't resonate, there's probably too many things. But that's, Padel League,
Correct.
Pickleball League, that. I think a lot of people want to try to replicate the UFC success of, we can create a new sport. I haven't seen it done since they did it, but we'll see.
For the Chief Empathy Officer, give it up for Nick Khan today. Want to thank you very much.
Thank you for listening to this episode of On Stage. If you enjoyed this conversation, be sure to subscribe, leave us a review, and share it with colleagues interested in sports, media, entertainment, and leadership. Here's a thought to take with you. In a crowded content landscape, what makes a brand or experience truly indispensable to fans? I'd love to hear your perspective. Send me a note at tbloom@sportsbusinessjournal.com. We'll be back in 2 weeks with another conversation from the stage featuring leaders shaping the future of sports business. Until next time, stay tuned and stay ahead. This is On Stage.